Excellent connection. And we are live. Now we are.
Woo! We are live.
We are live and alive. Thank you all for wondering.
8 minutes late, but we're here.
Thanks for caring. Thanks for caring. We are back. We're going to discuss so many dating challenges and questions that you all have sent in. And they're so relatable. Like, it's just unbelievable how relatable they are and how you're not alone in whatever you're going through.
Absolutely true. We have some really good topics today around moving on and then also finding out your ex has moved on. So we're going
Mm.
to get into all of that. But also, if you are live with us right now, feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll make sure to incorporate those in as well.
And of course, if you are listening to this, know that you can always join us on YouTube. We go live Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time. You just search for the Dateable podcast and just wait for us to appear magically.
Yeah. And of course, you can continue to send questions like you have through reviews or through email.
Yeah.
Whatever is your jam, we will get to as many questions as we possibly can in all these brunch talks. And also throw in an update or two of what's going on in our
Yeah.
lives, in the dating world, whatever makes sense. Like we're having brunch.
We love a good update or two, especially if you've asked us a question before and maybe implemented some of our
Ooh,
advice.
that'd be
Yeah,
fun.
that
Updates
would be
from
so fun.
others. Love it.
Tell us what's going on in your world. Make it
Yeah.
a two-way conversation. But this conversation, though, woof, are we ready to open the X files? I'm
Ooh.
not, but I will be. I will brace myself because many of you have been wondering with X resurrection season, if you got that. Exes seem to come back, and sometimes you don't cut off all communication with them. And someone recently went through the situation where an ex from a long time ago posted about his recent engagement. And even though she has no attachment to him, is not pining after him, has no unresolved feelings for him because she has moved on to a much better partner for her, it still stung to
Mm.
see that he made this grand announcement of him finding the one with this new woman. So the feelings are coming back, but she's having a hard time navigating what is this feeling? Why is this stinging so bad when I am so over this relationship and this person?
Yeah, and UA, when you messaged me, you're like, Have we done an episode? I can't think of it, but we
No,
had to have done an episode." And for a second, I'm like, "Of course we did this." And then I'm like, "I don't think we've
no.
touched on this." So here we are today. We're doing it. So we love getting these questions or sentiments. It doesn't even have to be a question. I think this is more of a, this is a weird feeling, and I just want to
Hmm.
relate to other people. And I totally get it. I think it brings up a lot then. And of course, like where you are with it sounds like the person that is sharing this has moved on. But I think if
Yeah.
it's fresh, it could feel different too than if it's been years. But even after years, I think there's this feeling of like, maybe, I don't know. And again, I don't know like the full story of this person, but maybe there's this feeling of like, if they wanted to, they would. And now
Yeah.
they are with someone else, but they couldn't with me. And like, what the F? And there's like almost that feeling, but it's like not actually accurate, but I get where that's coming from.
I think I would definitely feel that way with my ex, the one that
Yeah.
cheated. If I found out that he is somehow recently engaged or in a committed relationship, I think it's two things I would think about. One is, oh, is he scamming someone else? Is she going to find out eventually?
Mm.
But then the insecurities would pop up and say, oh, did he find someone he would choose to stay faithful for? And that wasn't me, right? Am I not as
Yeah.
worthy as this person?
So maybe it really comes down to like how it ended and how the whole
Yeah.
thing went down. I don't know. I'm just thinking about like my own scenario. And of course, like until you're in it, you never know how you'll fully react. But I feel like with my ex, it was like he wasn't ready for a relationship. He had own personal work to do and just wasn't there in the point of like really committing to a relationship. And I think if we had broken up and then, like, I don't know, even a year later, 2
Yeah.
years later, if he was, like, engaged and now he could, like, suddenly commit to someone, of course I'd be like, "What the F?" And I take it personally.
Yeah.
I think now, though, that, like, so much time has gone by, and again, I'm not saying, like, if you don't feel this way, there's something, like, wrong or anything like that, it's just my personal take. I
Mhm.
think now, because I'm, like, engaged, I'm moved on, if he told me he was too, and this is also how many years later? Like 5 years
Yeah.
plus,
Yeah.
even longer when since we first started dating, I'd be like, "Good for him." He
Yeah.
grew and did what he needed to do to get there, but I also do see, like, the resentment side of it. Like, so I'm not again, it's not like one is right or wrong, it's maybe just we're individual circumstances too.
And the person who posed this question is in the situation you're in. She's in a much better relationship. This past relationship ended a long time ago, years and
Yeah.
years ago. And I think that's why it's bringing up so much for her because she's like, I thought I was completely over this and I thought
Mm.
I would just celebrate the ex without having my own feelings attached to it. But it is bringing up something for me. So why is that?
So was she able to identify what that is?
I think she's
Like,
still working through it. I'm not gonna speak for her, but yeah.
so I think that's another piece. And again, I don't know the friend or the circumstance. So I'm just like saying things, but I would probably look at it like, what is this actually like? Is this shining a light of something that's maybe not fully there for me if I'm feeling this way?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think there could be I guess you just never know until this happens. See, my response to all of this is why I mentally murder my exes because I don't even want the chance of this happening. I unfollow them when our mutual friends talk about him. I just
Yeah,
stop them right away. I don't want to hear any news. I just don't I
yeah.
want to prevent this from happening. But last night I couldn't go to bed, Julie, and I was going through my old emails and I found an email exchange between this guy I dated for like a month and a half in Beijing. It was like the hottest fling I ever had, and I had major feelings for this guy. But after he was like this Canadian expat who was on his way back to Canada. So after he moved back to Canada, we had this discussion about whether we keep each other in each other's lives,
Mhm.
whether we still follow each other on Facebook and LinkedIn and all that. And I told him my school thought was I don't. I want
Yeah.
this to be a clean break. You were great for that time in my life, but I don't want to know when date when you start dating someone else. And you know what he said? He said if you were a part of my life that shaped me into who I am today. So if you were to date someone else and I find that somewhere and it brings pain for me, that is my thing I need to work through.
Well, yeah, yeah.
And he said I would welcome that pain because it would mean that I am growing.
I guess that's what I was trying to say in a maybe more eloquent way, the way he said it, of like, what is this shining for your friend? Like, is there something unhealed that is actually like a reflection of this? Like the guy was saying, it's less about you and the ex and all that. And it's more about like, what does this mean for me?
Mhm.
I don't know. I actually found on TikTok this morning and I screenshotted it because I knew we were doing this conversation. And I thought it was like really like I don't know, the way that this was written was really nice. So it was a video and it was like months after we broke up, my ex said, "I will not try to find someone better than you because we both know that's impossible, but I will try to find someone better for me." And
Hmm.
that made me realize that you could be the most perfect person and still not be a perfect fit for someone. So don't overthink it. You could have the kindest heart, the brightest mind, and the softest soul, and it still would not make you right for the wrong person. Their inability to stay does not mean you are lacking. It only means that they were never meant to hold the kind of love you have to offer.
Hmm.
And I really like that because I'm like, look, like at the end of the day, it's and again, it's easy to take things personally. I'm the queen of taking things personally, so I get it, but really a lot of it is that. Like at the end of the day, it's not like there's something wrong, that someone's moved on. Like, hypothetically, even if your ex tomorrow committed to some new girl, it doesn't mean that, like, you were broken and that's why he could do it with someone else. It just means for whatever reason it wasn't right.
Theoretically, it all makes sense,
Yeah.
right? It all makes sense. It is very hard taking the self out of this because I also think about with my ex, him declaring that he's just not good with commitment and not good with committing to a person for life and possibly marriage. It was just not
Yeah.
in his cards. And I find out that he's now engaged to someone. I think that would make it feel personal for me. Like he was saying that direct to me,
Yeah.
right?
I get that it feels it, but I think at the end of the
It's
day,
not.
it's
Yes.
not, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. And I do love that people can lean into this whatever curiosity and investigate these feelings that are bringing up for you because I think I've always been the avoidant type, like just
Mhm.
avoid the situations where this sort of pain could be brought up. But now I'm kind of rethinking it. Maybe I just lean more
Yeah.
into it. Not going to look for hurt, right? But if it does get brought up in some way, maybe it'll just make me more resilient.
I mean, I remember it's not the exact same situation at all, but I remember that there was this guy that I was dating like a long, long time ago that I was really into. And he
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, I'm not." I like told him I wanted to be with, like, be in a real relationship, the whole thing. And he basically was like, "I haven't committed to someone since I was in my 20, like right out of college." This was
Yeah.
like when I was like late 20s. And he was like, "Yeah, like that's probably, I'm just not looking for that, basically." And
Yeah.
then a week later, I see on Facebook a photo of him and a girl at like House of Prime Rib, which is like a really nice
Oh,
restaurant
we
in San
love House of Prime
Francisco.
Rib.
But you
Yes.
don't just go there on a casual date, right?
Right.
So I'm like, and they were posed. It looked like they were celebrating her birthday. So I was like,
Oof.
okay, he's clearly been really dating someone
Yeah.
and defined it with her. And that
Yeah.
stung real bad. I remember, like, my stomach just dropping seeing that photo. And it took a while because I was like, clearly we were both dating at the same time. And he decided that this person is someone worth committing to, and I wasn't. And that really stung, especially when I was in that
Mm,
taking it personal mode. But over the years, like, I think they're married today. I mean, I don't really
yeah.
know because I'm not like super in touch with him, but I saw photos around the line that looked like it because we were friends on Facebook. And I hit a point that I was like, look, if this was the right person for
Yeah.
him, this was the right person for him. It doesn't like mean anything. It's hard to not take it personally. I get that, but it really isn't at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I get it, and it takes time to really understand that. But in the moment, it can feel like you're singled out, like a spotlight has been shined on you, right? To be like,
Right.
you were not the chosen one. It was not you. It feels that way.
Right. And it sounded like with the situation you were talking about, it was like the declaration was part of it, right?
Yes. 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 And I think the declaration is hard, especially, and I do wonder if the person who asked this question, especially if her ex never made that kind of declaration with her.
Yeah, so maybe that's where some of the that's where it's coming from. So I think about this a lot. Like, I would say my partner what is the love of my life,
Hmm.
right? But like,
Hmm.
would my ex be upset to hear that? It could sting. It could sting to hear that, like, to hear someone say that. But the thing is, like, at the time with him, he was the love of my life. Like, it's not like he
Yeah.
wasn't either. Like, clearly where I am now is a different scenario. But I think sometimes it's not like one or the other. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it feels like love, if love feels like a zero sum game. You
Yeah.
can only declare love for one person. You can only be committed to one person. And if you're committed to this one person, it takes away from your love of this previous person, which is not true. We're talking about this in a very scientific way. It's not true. But when you're the one in it, it does feel like, did you not mean it? Was
Right.
it just said to manipulate me? It does make you question the relationship a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm,
I want to take a quick break because I'm curious your thoughts on something else. I feel like, okay, like a quick breather here. I'm getting worked up. Just kidding. I think what I'm thinking about is I feel like a lot I'm not like super in contact with exes right now, but I do have some people that are still floating on Instagram that
mhm,
aren't that they weren't like super serious exes, but they were people in my life at one point, and they definitely have like seen me post like photos that I'm engaged.
mhm.
I have my most serious ex that I do occasionally talk to. I have not texted him and been like, "I'm engaged," because that's so weird. Like,
Yeah.
why would you say that? But, like, I think about, like, do they have any residual feelings, or are they just like, "Good for her, I don't care," you know? It's hard to know.
You don't know. Maybe they don't know until they see the announcement. I'm telling you, you really never know what they think. So the ex or the ex fling I was telling you about in our exchange, he said, "I want to be I want to hear about you dating someone else from you first."
Yeah.
That was like one of his rules if we were to keep being friends. And then two is, I if you're happy, I'm happy for you because you're someone who meant something to me in my life and
Mhm.
I want to see the people I love be happy. But when I had been in all those other relationships in my life and with our book and our podcast and everything, there's so many things to celebrate. He has never once reached out
Mm.
to say congratulations or I'm so happy for you. Like there has never been anything like this. So to me, I'm
Yeah.
like, did you really mean it or it just sounded good in the moment?
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, my ex, he obviously knew I was dating someone seriously, and I think he was happy for me. I think there was, like, a little bit of, that kinda sucks that there's someone not, like, sucks that there's someone else, but, like, I couldn't be that person. Like, a
Yeah.
little bit of that, but I think overall he's happy, and if I told him I was engaged, I think he'd be happy for me. But, like, how do you do that? You're not gonna, like, text someone and be like, "Guess what? News." Plus, you're not invited, like, you're not gonna
Yeah.
do that. So I'm just like, I'm clearly never gonna, like, say it unless it, like, comes up somehow, like, out of context.
I think it would be so weird to say it for you
No.
to tell him. That'd just be so weird. It feels like you're rubbing it in his face.
So it's really Facebook and Instagram is the only way you find out
Uh-huh.
nowadays, or, like,
Uh-huh.
if you have mutual friends
Right,
and,
through
like, you
friends.
hear, but no
Yeah.
one's gonna, like, text someone and be like, "Life update."
Or yeah, or some of my friends have found out through the New York Times.
Really? I
Remember
would l
that's how Carrie found out about Big
Yes.
and Natasha?
Yes.
Yes, I've
Yes.
definitely had friends in New York who found about their exes
But,
getting married
like,
to
in the
someone.
last, like, 2 couple years or, like,
No,
year yeah, I feel like that's,
years
like,
ago. I don't even think
Sex
that's
of
a
the
thing
City
now.
era. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a thing.
Yeah.
Like who's still
Who's
doing that?
working at newspaper?
Yeah.
It's
Who
Instagram now. That's what it is. Yeah.
Right, you don't wanna be announced in the New York Times, you wanna be announced on their Instagram account.
I do wanna run a poll, though. I mean, for anyone that's live listening, please drop it in the comments, but we're gonna put a poll up on Spotify when this airs on Sunday also, because I want to see what people's take is. And, granted, I do think, like, some of it is, like, how much time has gone on and how
Yeah,
where you are and all that, but, I mean, I would be curious if people would feel that ping, like, if their ex got engaged or was in a serious relationship after saying that they couldn't be with them, or if they really wouldn't care.
yeah. And like you said, I think it really does depend on how it ended. With the relationships where I got out and, voluntarily, and I decided this partner was not right for me, I don't think it would hurt that bad. But in the ones where it's kind of murky the way it ended, or you didn't
Mm.
really want it to end, yeah, I think that's where it gets more painful.
So I was looking up just some stats around like moving on in general and just like what mean, clearly there's not like a specific formula of like how long it takes to move on, even though we wish there was. But the Journal of Positive Psychology study was saying on average 3 months is when
Mhm.
you start to feel significantly better after a breakup. And then 71% of people reported feeling better within 11 weeks of a breakup. And I think, like, this is something I've been thinking about because I know in my circumstance, and I have other people in my life that I'm looking at this now, sometimes it's hard to like rip that band-aid off.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to accept that my ex and I were over. Like, it was more comfortable for me to stay in this place of feeling like we could be together again, but
Mhm.
I think ultimately that actually, like, prolonged the getting over it. And I feel
Mhm.
like I look at you and you were like, "Nope, we are done. We
Yeah.
are done." And you were able to move on faster, but it was like you had to sit with it, and it was hard in that month, but it was, like, almost more condensed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the hardest relationships are the ones that end with possibility,
Yeah.
right? There's just always like external circumstances. Oh, you can't be together. But what if? There's always that what if.
Yeah, there was also this study too that was interesting. It was looking up, like, what are I don't know, like, things that you wouldn't guess, and there was a study this was in 2015, so I'm curious on your take on this too, but there was a study that was titled "Too Fast, Too Soon: An Empirical Investigation into Rebound Relationships." Which was saying that they actually found that individuals who entered new relationships shortly after a breakup reported higher confidence in their desirability and greater resolution over their ex partner, which was,
Shorter, shorter time in between
yeah,
relationships.
yeah,
What's shorter? Do they define it?
they did not
Okay.
fully. But I think that's kind of interesting of like it's basically contrary to the popular notion that rebound relationships are detrimental.
We did another little poll on Instagram. The question was, how long do you give between relationships? And most people picked 1 to 6 months. So the
Yeah,
options were 1 to 6, 6 to 12, and over a year. Most people picked 1 to 6, which I guess in that you can also say like 1 to 3 is short and three to 6 is
right.
longer time. But I am curious. I am very shocked by that though, because I thought you're supposed to really sit with the ending of a relationship, give it time before you jump into something else, because otherwise you're just bringing the same baggage over.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
guess maybe what's the metric? Because it sounded like the metric they were using is reported higher confidence in their desirability.
Yeah,
But greater
validation.
resolution over their ex is interesting.
So do you think the person who asked this question has some unresolved issues with the ex?
I don't know, maybe it's just because it's, like, spans so long. I'm wondering if there's some
Mm.
correlation. I do kinda see that side of it because I know that time that I wasn't really ready to give it up, he was just, like, occupying my mind for a really long time, where if I had moved on, I could have, like, met someone else and shifted gear, so then if they moved on, I would not have felt that same ting that I would have if I was, like, sitting in it so much.
But you could also move on with someone who's not right, and then it would amplify the
Totally.
hurt of not being in that relationship or make you miss the ex even more.
Yeah. I would love to deep dive this study more because I feel like first of all, it's from 2015 too. And I wonder if like some of the stuff that exists today of like being away from that ex partner also, like Instagram, for instance, was not as prevalent there. So
Mm,
like to have greater resolution, I mean, I get it in theory, like, if you're moved on to someone else, and then, yeah, like, what's that like, if you move on and meet an incredible partner, like, I have a friend that moved on pretty fast, I would say. Even
mhm,
you, like, yours isn't,
mhm.
like, so fast, but it was a pretty short time relative to, like, the 5-year relationship.
Yeah.
and then they met someone like really wonderful. Like my other friend I'm thinking above is married today to that person. And like in theory, people could be like, oh, it was a rebound. It was quick, but it
Yeah.
wasn't because that actually ended up being the right person for them. So it's like, how do you, it could go either way depending on who you actually meet too.
I guess only you know. When you know if you're ready to move on to the next relationship. And then some people, yeah, you can dwell in that ex or the previous relationship for a really long time, and that gets really counterproductive for your
Yeah.
love life. So it
Yeah.
is nice to get back out there, as they say, and be open to whoever you could be meeting. Maybe there is a sweet spot. It's like between 6 and 12 months is a good time,
It's
right?
also
And
probably like how much do you bring to the surface versus avoid too.
yeah, yeah, of course.
So hard because like even like the stats around like 3 months in, I feel like if you've been mentally checked out of your relationship, like I know a lot of people in this circumstance that they were with their partner for years and then like literally like year like at least building up a year to break up. So of course once they finally do, they're going to be ready to date versus like when it comes out of nowhere. I think they're very different circumstance.
There's also, I just thought about this and bring this back to the original question. I find myself doing this too. Sometimes you mourn the celebration of milestones. Maybe
Hmm.
you've done it all already.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden your ex is now celebrating a milestone that you've already done. And it's like it gives you this feeling of, well, what do I have next? What is this thing I need to announce next? And you hear this from a lot of people after they get married, have kids in a short window of time. After they have the kids, they're like, "Oh god, now I have like nothing to celebrate." There's like nothing to, there's no milestone for me to put out there. And it sounds very superficial when I say it out loud, but there
Yeah.
is some grieving to that. It's like, "Oh, I've already settled into my life and this person's just starting their milestones."
Yeah. No, I could see it. That's why I think it really there's something there that's a reflection on yourself. But what that is, it could be many different things. It's
So
like,
many different things.
yeah, how do you unpack it?
First, read our book. No, just kidding. Good though. I think we hit many different corners of this topic, but at end of the day, you know yourself best, and it's good to explore what this brings up for you. Don't try to avoid it like I used
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, and I think there's like no right or wrong here. Like in different circumstances have different results too of feeling away versus not. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just listening to like what's coming up for you and bring it back to yourself and saying like, okay, I feel this way. I'm not going to pretend like I don't.
Yeah.
But what does this really mean for me? Because at the end of the day, who cares about your ex?
No.
Like,
Right.
no, they're done.
Mhm. They're an X for a reason.
Yeah. So should I invite all my exes to the wedding? I'm just
You
kidding.
should. Yeah, you should personally invite them and then have a
Definitely
therapist on
not.
hand for people who are working through their emotions.
And also, what does it say about me that all of my exes are still super single?
Yeah. Oh, I don't think it says anything about you. But
Well, it says something about the people I chose. I will say that. It shows that they like actually really weren't looking for commitment in any way if they're still single to this date.
yeah. Or you messed them up so bad they'll never date again, Julie. You're the last one.
I don't think so. I think it's like cuz that was the recurring theme of me that I could never like none of them wanted to fully commit and
Yeah.
they're still not committed to anyone.
Well, at least they're true to themselves.
But when one day, if they are, I will celebrate them. I
Good.
will be happy for them. I really
Good.
will. I don't think there's anyone that I'm like, "Oh, F you." But I also feel like no one really F me over. I think there's
Yeah,
a
right.
difference.
Yeah, they didn't like they're still good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if your ex gets
Yeah.
married, I won't be like congratulating him.
No, I'll be like, "Girl, I'm
Good
sorry."
luck. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, at the end of the day though, too, it's like it's either that they were just the right people for each other which is like it is what it is. It kind of
Mhm.
it's like it's a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, you found
Yeah.
someone that's the right person for you. Let them do that too.
Yeah.
Or the person is going to get the exact same version that you did. They
I
haven't
know.
changed at all,
I
and you don't want
know.
that anyways.
Groundhog's Day.
I mean, you don't really know from like a post on Facebook or Instagram. You don't know what their relationship's like.
No, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Well, that is the most time I've ever spent thinking about my ex. So I think I'm done for the year. That's my quota.
I still can't get over that you've never run into him again. Like, that to me is
Or
the
any of my
baffling part.
exes.
Yeah,
Any of them.
I've run into your ex.
I know.
Not the bad ex, but I've run into another ex
I
multiple
know.
times.
Never.
He
Like
ignores me
living in the
every
same
time.
city. Never. I
I love
did,
wh
yeah. Or they like truly they see me from far away and they probably run away, which
I
is the way it should
mean,
be.
your ex ignored me twice. So, I don't even know what he would do when he saw you. Granted, he was walking with another girl both times. There was one time I walked right by him. And I was gonna say hello because like, there was no, like he didn't, like, screw you over either, like,
No.
you guys were whatever, it ended because it just ended.
Yeah.
And I was right next to him. I was
And
gonna
he
be
was
like,
like
"Hey, how are you?" And he looked at me and he looked down. I'm like, "Okay, guess we're not doing that."
he probably shit his pants.
Yep, he's like, "Yeah, we're not gonna pretend like we know each other." And I'm like, "Okay."
That's
But I
so
get it.
weird.
Maybe he
Like,
didn't wanna be like, "How do you know that girl?" It's like my
oh,
ex's friend. I don't know.
it's
Even
like
though who
we're grown ass
cares? Yeah.
people. And like at that time you ran into him, he was probably like already in his 50s. Isn't it time to grow up?
Okay, the
Right?
thing is though, I will say that right now on this podcast, but if it was me in that moment and I was
Yeah.
like awkward, I admit it. I ran into this guy. I won't even call him my ex. In a way is a little, but like my 2.5 year situationship.
Oh yeah.
I was in Whole Foods. I was actually really sick and I looked disgusting, which was part of it. And I was there to pick up a pizza and I saw him and I was like, "Oh, hell no. I do not want to interact with him right now." And like the mature me, if I was on this podcast out of the
Mhm.
situation, I'd be like, "Of course I'd say hello. I have no like issue with him today." But in that moment, my instinct was
Run.
to hide and get the F out of Whole Foods.
Because that's a whole other episode. What
What do you do
what
when
does
you
that
run into
bring?
them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What is that bringing up for you exactly? I remember being the bigger person to go up to another ex when I was with my the boyfriend at the time. We ran into my ex and his wife
Yeah.
and the brother. And I was like, I'm gonna go up and say hi. I'm gonna be the bigger person. And it was like the most awkward interaction ever. And I so regret doing that. So actually wish I had just run and hide and hid.
I think because I was sick was the real driver and I looked disgusting was I was like, I don't want to see this person after like 10 years and be
Oh.
like, anyways. I also ran into another ex, I guess. Like, again, this was like not someone I defined a relationship with, but it was like an on again, off again person for a bit.
Mhm.
And he lives like across the street from me. So I ran into him on the street and I saw him approaching and I was by myself and I was like, I wonder if he's like what this interaction is. But he stopped and he was very nice. He's like, "How are
Good.
you? What are you up to?" Like very nice. And like we're still like Instagram friends. So it's not like we have no idea what the other is up to, but
Yeah.
very cordial and nice. And then parted ways. Like I don't know, the 4 days later, I was with my partner and I see him again, and I was just like and he was definitely going to ignore me. Like, I think he was, like, waiting for my cue, and I was just like, "Hi." Like, we didn't, like, stop and chat, but I, like,
Yeah.
waved.
Awkward.
Awkward
Mm.
encounters. Send us yours. We love hearing about
Yeah, we
awkward
actually love these
encounters
stories.
with exes. It is a
Yeah,
really great talk.
what is the weirdest ex encounter you've ever had? Tell
Yeah.
us your stories.
I'm glad we were able to open the X Files on this
Mhm.
episode and
And
close
now
it
we're gonna
now.
close them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Sealed.
Sealed for never again. No, just
Never
kidding.
again. Yes. No more opening the X Files ever again. But thank you for tuning in. And maybe this made you think about what an ex could bring up for you,
Yeah.
especially if they're announcing a major celebration like an engagement.
Yep. Use it for growth. I like what your ex said.
Yeah. Yes. All right. We're going to be back next week, same time with the same format. Send us your dating questions. You can also join live. Just remember, we go live every Tuesday on YouTube at 4 p.m. PST.
Okay. Remember to get How to Be Dateable out now. Audiobook, hardcover, Kindle, whatever you fancy.
And we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.